The world's a pretty big place. With our busy lives, no reasonable person can be expected to keep up with the biggest headlines each week, so I'm here to do it for you. This is Tony Pearson coming to you on behalf of WHIP with this week's Big Picture. Starting things off with the United States today, many of Trump's cabinet picks have been finalized. There are, of course, a lot of people on this list, so I'm just going to go over any individuals that I think are especially interesting or important. In short, though, a lot of his choices are a bit odd. Starting off with his chief of staff, Trump picked RNC chairman Reince Priebus. Now, Priebus actually hasn't always been the biggest supporter of Trump's. It seems that Trump probably picked him just because of his political experience, as well as his experience with law. Trump's transition team has actually had a lot of issues due to their lack of familiarity with the system. For example, they are very much behind right now on hiring people to staff the White House. The White House staff actually comes and goes, for the most part, with each president. As of November, Trump's transition team had done little work in getting together the nearly 2,000 people needed to staff the building. If I had to guess, Trump probably picked Priebus to help with things like that and make sure that they don't happen in the future, because he is an insider. Moving on to his chief strategist and senior counsel, Trump picked Steve Bannon, who we actually talked about on an earlier episode. Long story short, he's been the man running Breitbart, an alt-right news website which is pretty famous for its racist, sexist, often demeaning and hateful views. I don't like throwing around words like that if I don't think they are deserved, but in the case of Breitbart, I think it is deserved. That being said, while Bannon is the guy who allows this stuff to happen and keeps the site afloat, he's generally pretty quiet with his own views, so it's hard to say how much of that stuff he really buys. That being said, to say that he's just guilty by association is probably a bit of an understatement. He's the guy in charge of the site, so it is a little bit troubling to say the least. Moving on to his pick for the Attorney General, Trump nominated Senator Jeff Sessions. He's also someone who we've already talked about a bit, but the gist is that Senator Sessions is well known for being openly opposed to civil rights in the past, and he was even rejected for a seat as a federal judge due to racist comments. He's also a staunch opponent of any form of marijuana legalization. The guy's pretty much just, I think, at least the worst of what the Republican Party has to offer. I don't know why Trump picked him. I'm very unhappy with that choice. And so are a lot of other people. But that's who Trump chose, so I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. His cabinet picks have also included a bunch of big businessmen, most notably, in my opinion, Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State and Andy Puzder as the Secretary of Labor. Rex Tillerson is the chairman and CEO of ExxonMobil, one of the largest oil companies in the world, and Andy Puzder is the CEO of CKE Restaurants, which includes the well-known Hardee's food chain. Now, like I said before, there are many other people on his cabinet. I could probably dedicate an entire episode to analyzing each of his choices, but the people I just spoke about are some of the more interesting and concerning individuals on the list. In the end, that's pretty much how I feel about his choices. Concerned. Trump seems to have drained the swamp like he wanted to, but he replaced it with a different but still very swampy swamp. A lot of these people, I think at least, represent huge conflicts of interests. I mean, think about it. Our Secretary of State is also the CEO of the 5th largest oil company in the world and the largest one in the US. And people like Jeff Sessions and Steve Bannon are well known for their association with or belief in bigoted ideas that don't really sit well with most of the American public today. If anything hurts Trump, though, I think it'll be these choices in addition to his own businesses, which, according to the legal advisor for Presidents Bush and Obama, are going to have to go or become much, quote-unquote, blinder trusts. That is, if Trump doesn't want to run into legal trouble and possible impeachment later on. I mean, that really is a big issue. As President of the United States, you're not supposed to be doing business, essentially, with foreign powers, which his companies do on a regular basis. With all of that said, his picks are not all bad. Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense, for example, is General James Mattis, who is absolutely stellar as far as I'm concerned. Mattis is beloved within the U.S. military and is believed by many to be one of the best modern generals in the world, and not just in a kill-everything war kind of way. He's well known for his intelligent leadership and his ability to negotiate with words and diplomacy, before things get violent. And of course, if things do get violent, Mattis is very good at dealing with that too. I think he's a very smart and qualified choice for Secretary of Defense. He knows what he's doing. Additionally, while the rest of Trump's choices aren't even close to being, I think, well-balanced and qualified, Trump's cabinet picks do include a few women and even a registered Democrat in the list that I've seen. Still, the issues I mentioned before far outweigh those positive notes, at least in my opinion. But that's what we're looking at with Trump's cabinet right now. Moving on to international news, I've got something unusual from Australia, a large terrorist attack and bombing that got stopped before it happened. Omar Al-Khattabi and Mohammed Kiad, both in their late 20s, have pled guilty to preparation for terrorist attacks in Sydney, Australia. The two were arrested in counter-terrorism raids back in February of 2015, almost a year ago. I'm reporting on this now because the sentencing is now complete, and the two will be looking at a minimum of 15 years in jail. The strange thing about their case is that neither individual was raised to follow extreme Islamic views. Rather, they were drawn to the Islamic State during 2014 for reasons that I honestly cannot imagine. If I had to guess, it was probably some recruiting online, something like that. They haven't released all of these specifics yet. I do like reporting on news like this, though, just because it is nice when attacks like these get stopped before they take place, and the mainstream news rarely ever covers it. That being said, the pair did almost carry out one attack at a Shiite place of worship and only backed out when they saw that people were still inside. Looks like despite their radical beliefs, it seems that they had at least a little bit of humanity left in them. Anywho, on to our next story. I've got an update for you guys on the situation in South Korea. I covered this originally on episode 7, but here's a summary of what's going on. Back in October, a huge conspiracy surfaced in South Korea which revealed that the country's president, Park Geun-hye, was actually a puppet president who took orders from a secret third-party council, one which was, might I add, a little bit cultish. Since then, there have been massive protests calling for her resignation, and this past week, it became official. South Korea's parliament voted almost unanimously to impeach President Park, making it all but certain that she will become South Korea's first president to be disgracefully fired, so to speak. Assuming the Constitutional Court doesn't strike down the decision, Park will be out of office by June. Finishing things off today, our last piece of news is a bit of tech news, actually, and it's got to do with Amazon. The company, which currently dominates the world of online shipping here in the US, just announced that it will be opening some revolutionary new physical stores. Unlike normal marketplaces, these new shopping centers use computer technology to really simplify the whole going shopping experience. There are no lines, no checkouts. You just walk in, take a product off the shelf, and leave. The store's technology will detect who takes what off the shelves, charging their Amazon account after they've left. They're calling these stores Amazon Go, and they're working to push them out quick. The first should be open to shop in by early 2017. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for sticking with the program this semester and listening to big picture news from around the world. I'm Tony Pearson from WHIP, signing off. If I don't talk to you guys before next semester, enjoy the holidays. If you have a winter break, enjoy the time off. I'll be looking forward to talking to you all again.